Hello, and welcome to the Geopolitics Explained podcast. In continuing our discussion on geopolitics and game theory, today we have to explore another connected field, that being psychology. How does the character of world leaders affect our geopolitical world? And how does cooperation or non-cooperation play a role in games in general? And how is cooperation relevant to geopolitics? It's these questions that we'll answer today. We elect leaders based on their policies or based on the policies of a group in which a leader is a member of. But whatever system of governance a country possesses, it boils down to an individual leader. If we zoom out and explore the role that leaders play at a broad level, they represent an idea. In times of geopolitical tension, our fate is often in the hands of this idea. In periods of instability, the most important quality of a leader is to be human. We can all make mistakes, as can our leaders, but to be morally just and to try to understand the viewpoints of all those within a governance system signals a good leader. Within geopolitics, communication and patience are key aspects that I believe every leader should exhibit, even in the constant power politics that unfold in the background of geopolitics. In a world where communication and patience were pursued as key aspects that every leader should possess, would this lead to cooperation between leaders from other nations? And would this lead to leaders cooperating with their societies? I'll first discuss cooperation between leaders. Countries are attracted to work with those with similar values, politically and economically, to themselves. Countries, however, in order to work together, must have something to offer in return. The country with the most to give often has the most cards to play. In having the most cards to play, they can best consolidate and maintain their power. We see this in the cycle of empires, but an empire starts to decline when another nation collects more cards and has more choices than the current ruling power. It's this that we are potentially seeing in the geopolitical tussle between the United States and China. In an environment of cooperation in geopolitics, groups of players can be described as coalitions that exhibit cooperative behaviour in decision-making. What's notable, however, is when it comes to cooperation between geopolitical actors, this cooperation is conditional. If geopolitical players form alliances, their utility is distributed. If you remember the discussion last week, utility is the reward gained per unit effort. In geopolitics, this translates to the reward received for every decision made. If utility is declining, it makes sense for an actor to exit a geopolitical interaction, whether this is an alliance or a rival. In cooperative structures within geopolitics, the collective payoff could exceed any individual payoff that could be achieved. In the real world, this is seen in the value-based alliances that we've alluded to, but it's also seen in economic integration or in security guarantees. With Donald Trump's recent aggressive moves against Europe, which is seeing Europe rearm, Trump is betting that his individual payoff by reducing relations with Europe will outweigh the collective payoff that the United States received by offering Europe a place under the United States' security umbrella. This highlights that cooperation only exists when collective payoffs are larger than potential individual payoffs. When collective utility declines, players in an alliance can abandon ship. This is how cooperative periods within geopolitics can turn into non-cooperative periods. By default, geopolitics is a non-cooperative game. There is no central authority above all states, and power dynamics often drive who can pressure who. States always act in self-interest, with survival and power sought after, even if this hurts other nations. The leaders in our geopolitical world calculate payoffs for any decision they make, and the expected payoff is based on the expected reaction of other players. As a result of this, trust in geopolitics is often limited, and even in periods of cooperation, trust is reversible. In reality, the pursuit of dominance, isolationist policies, sanctions and embargoes all contribute to the geopolitical environment where each player seeks to optimize their own position independently. But when it comes to our geopolitical world today, especially before the current period of chaos and rising tension that we're living through, we did see a more cooperative world. This was a result of globalization and of mutually assured destruction. Both of these concepts ensure that the world cannot be in a state of pure non-cooperation. States are interdependent on each other when it comes to trade, and existential risks to one another ensure that some communication has to remain. And yet, today, our geopolitical world is becoming one that is more fragmented. This is a world where power vacuums emerge and where nations seek to gain options and strength. This is naturally more non-cooperative. If we refer back to the Nash equilibrium, this is the environment where all players have chosen their best strategy, and so they aren't incentivized to change. In a world of increased chaos, miscalculation and communication issues, among other concepts, can lead to imbalance. In this period of imbalance, nations are incentivized to change strategies because it's unlikely that every nation in the world will find themselves in an environment where they can choose their best strategy. Especially in geopolitics, it's vital that leaders and nations maintain communication in an effort to maintain balance, even when the current forces of the world are driving us towards more chaos and instability. Now, the overarching worry is that communication between leaders and nations in an effort to maintain balance is rational. Unfortunately, our leaders aren't rational. They're influenced by ego, domestic factors, history, and ideology, among many other things. As a result, geopolitics is a repeated game where players have imperfect information and where players possess irrationality. Naturally, due to this imperfect information and irrationality, geopolitics is one of the most volatile games that we can model. Next week, we will continue to discuss the psychology that connects game theory and geopolitics. Specifically, we will discuss this availability of information, and we will also allude to the power of hindsight in connection to geopolitics and game theory. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review on the podcast platform of your choice. I've been Dylan, and I'll talk to you next time.